Welcome to Beyond Broken Hungry. Juggling your career, relationships, nutrition, fitness, finance, try to pursue your dreams, and stay sane can be a bit of a struggle. With the help of expertise from a variety of wellness experts and tips and tricks from everyday people, this podcast is here to share it all to make this journey we call life just a little more balanced. I'm stumbling towards wellness right alongside you, and I'm so happy to have you come along this journey. With that in mind, let's jump into this week's episode of Beyond Broken Hungry. Hello, everyone. Welcome back to another episode of Beyond Broken Hungry. I am your host, Dara Sweat, and I am here with the fabulous Samantha Rossin. She is a life coach, co-founder of Rise and Record, and just an all-around badass, and I'm super excited to have her on the show.
Yes, thank you for having me.
Of course.
Exciting.
Yeah, so I actually met Samantha at Rise and Record in Nashville. She is married to Brandon Adams, who is actually a previous guest on Beyond Broken Hungry. He was on, I believe, in July or August. And I met Sam, heard her story, and just was like, you know what? This girl needs to share with the BBH tribe the amazing things that she has overcome and the mindset that she has and the power that she wields. So I just had to have her on here. So Sam, before we get started, why don't you go ahead and tell us a little bit about yourself?
Yeah, so again, thank you for having me. So I am the co-founder of Rise and Record. I'm also business partners with my husband, and we work in like the business growth and development area. So we help people grow their businesses, their personal life. And I'm also a life coach alongside Tim Story, who is my life coach. And so I'm partnered with him. And so I have a couple clients in that area. And I'm actually kind of in the process of getting back in the fitness industry. I took a year off, mostly just like your mental health sometimes needs that. And I just feel like my calling keeps coming back to getting back into, you know, helping people, behavior change, fitness. And it kind of just aligns with my life coaching. So that's really where I'm at right now.
Yeah, I love that. And you know what? I love that you recognized that you need to take a step back from something for a little bit. You know, I feel like as entrepreneurs, we have this tendency to think that like, if this is what I'm doing, like I have to do this and I have to do all of these things in all of these different spaces. But sometimes it's really okay to be like, you know what? This part is just not working for me right now. And, you know, I still love it. I'm still going to do what I have to do personally. But me being able to help other people, I need to fill my own cup and then be able to pour into other people. So I love that you recognize that. And now you're starting to slowly get into it. I love seeing your videos that you post on your Instagram with your workouts at home and workouts in the gym. And, you know, because sometimes people are like, what do I do? So I love when people share.
Yeah, no, it's so fun. I just love everything about working out myself. So like, you know, it was really hard to take a step back because, you know, I let a lot of people down, but at the end of the day, like I really had to take care of myself because I wasn't giving them everything I had anymore. So yeah.
For sure. So in the aspect of putting all of this together and the direction that you're going and everything else, as the life coach portion of your business that you do, what are some of the ways, whether that's, you know, tips and tricks or a little checklist for things to do for your clients or the people that you work with in all realms, whether it's fitness or just life in general, business, whatever. What are some things that you will do to help them like get started towards their goals?
Yeah. So with the life coaching in that aspect, we have this whole curriculum that Tim Story has created. So we go over like finances, life goals, relationships, and, you know, everything in a whole. So that's really cool as it's like cut out to really like help you throughout the year. And then for fitness, you know, it really starts with behavior change. And so I sit down or I talk to someone and I'm like, I make it so that it's their idea because in the past, I've always just like, oh, you want to lose weight? Like, let's go work out. And it just never consistently works for that person. And so I really learned to like sit down, find that behavior change, find their strengths, find the skill, that they are at. And then we kind of go from there. But sometimes it's more of like the internal motivation and discipline than the workout itself. And so just really laying that out and what's important to them has been like a game changer. And I think that's really important for, all coaches.
Yeah, absolutely. Helping them find their why and
Mm-hmm.
sticking to that and growing with it. I think that's, for me personally, when I was on my fitness journey, it took me a long time to
Yeah.
figure out what worked for me. And I always kind of knew my why, but it's like, I did the yo-yo thing. I was
Mm-hmm.
inconsistent. I would go gung-ho and then quit, or and then have to restart and get back on track over and over and over again.
Mm-hmm.
But when you finally kind of decide, what, this is what I need to do and this is what I need to focus on, and you have somebody that's helping you mold
Mm-hmm.
that into your own thinking, instead of being like, here's the document, you have to do everything on here and then your life will be great. It's like, no, like, let's work together, let's build this together, let's figure this out together. And I think that's a huge game changer, and I'm sure you're really impacting a lot of people with that way.
Yeah, it really is like a whole, like I've seen all sorts of coaches, trainers, and those have been like the most inspiring people is when I'm like, they actually get it and they like know what is important first and just to like push someone into working out, because working out at a gym is terrifying at first. Like,
Mhm.
so just being able to like sit down and get aligned and build that rapport is super important.
Absolutely. So you said that Tim Story was your life coach, and that's
Yeah.
kind of what inspired you to want to go on this track. So what was it that kind of woke up inside you that said, you know what, I want to do this for others as well?
Yeah, I feel like so Brandon and I, he's our life coach together. And, I've always supported Brandon through all of his everything he's done really. And so we kind of like, we're like, we put our marriage on hold for like a couple years so that we could build and he could get to this level of where he wanted to be. Well, I realized that his level where he wanted to be like kept going to the next level, the next level. So I'm like, how long am I going to be like the support system? And so that's why we hired a life coach. And Tim is a really good friend of ours. But he really like laid out that both individually need to be doing our own things. And he made me realize like my brokenness, my past, and everything is for a purpose and for, for a calling. And so when I was able to like lay out, like, I was addicted to drugs. It used to be I was a drug addict, like would want to learn from me. He made me like really mentally shift my mind into like, no, I'm able to help more people who are going through that same thing. And that really has like transformed my life into like helping others through life coaching. It's just
Yeah,
it's a different like aspect. And when you can use your past as, your calling and the good, it just changed so many lives. And it's like such an emotional process, but like it's truly a gift.
yeah, absolutely. And speaking of your story,
Mm-hmm.
at Rise and Record, you told your story, and it just really moved me about the experience that you had with the addiction and with going through those financial ups and downs, and pursuing the place that you're in now. So
Mm-hmm.
let's talk a little bit about that and share the power and the strength that you had to muster up, that you learned how to muster up to get yourself out of such a dark place.
Yeah. Well, like with the drug addiction, like Brandon's my ride or die. Like he came into my life at such perfect moment. Like I fully believe that God put him there for a reason. And
Sure.
um in my relationship, I was in this abusive relationship for 8 years. And so when I first met Brandon, it was like I couldn't let go of my past and I couldn't like accept his love. And when we were able to come together, like I thought the obstacles and the roadblocks were done, but man, as you know, like we have been through so much. But I think when you have like such a big dream and a big goal, like it it just takes so much grit. And, so having almost gone bankrupt on, the verge of creating success in your city and getting my car repossessed, like right in front of my eyes when I thought like life was starting to get better, like those are really hard things. But like, because of our faith and because we believed in like what, Rise and Record is, like that was our dream 8 years ago. And so if you continuously like know that you're supposed to be doing something and it's your calling, like you do whatever it takes, but take back the heartache and the pain that those obstacles have, given us. Like it was extremely hard. Like I probably have cried more than, like I've been super happy, but like, yeah, look at where we are now. Like it's just unbelievable.
Yeah, absolutely. You guys definitely have come a long way, and you can just tell like the video is not doing the justice that your energy just encompasses. And like
Yeah.
literally like hadn't even met you before at all, and then the first moment that I see you at Rise and Record, it was like I felt so warm, I felt like
Mhm.
so welcomed. I felt like you guys were just so passionate and excited about that weekend and everything that it stood for, and everything that you guys have worked together for. And it just illuminates from you. And like I said, like the video is not even doing your energy justice, because it is just, it's so bright, and you're such a light. And you really are just like a very empowering presence to be around. And it's
Thank you.
it's very a good breath of fresh air. Especially when you have gone through these trials. So many people, when they go through stuff like this, whether it's the same thing that you went through or it's something
Mhm.
similar, bigger, smaller, whatever the case is, they have this tendency to feel defeated, to let that
Mm.
define them. And I think it's so powerful that, although I'm sure when you're going through hell and you're in the muck, I mean, it's like you probably feel like, what the heck, and
Yeah.
but being able to get through that is just incredible. So when
Yes.
when you were going through all of this, obviously it's hell, it's the dark times and everything else. But how did you hold on to your faith during all of that, to know that you would get through this?
Yeah. So like, and I, even before Rise and Record, I lean into God so much. I was like, how are we going to pull this off? It was probably one of the hardest, most, like, it was the biggest event we've ever done. And I wanted everything to just align so that people got to know each other. And like, like, this is an obstacle. Like, so I just want to say that, like, I'm continuously still going through obstacles, but I look at it in such a different way because God has brought me through everything that I've been through. So it's just like, I know he's going to get me through this next thing. But holding on to my faith, like I found our faith together, like I've always had some sort of faith, but like really when, we were about to get divorced in 2020. And, we had just like gotten our car taken away, all these things, resentment, pain, I just looked at him as a failure. I was like, you told me you're going to provide this life, and we are nowhere near it. And we were driving, and this young girl, rolled her car, went into the ditch, and she passed away in my husband's arms. And from that day on, we have not argued. I mean, it's been 2 years, but that was such a life changing thing. And my faith that day, like, completely changed. I lean into God for everything. I always know that what I'm going to go through, He is going to provide the solution. It might not be the road I want to go on, but it's the road that's, where I'm supposed to go. And it just is so powerful. Like, I love sharing that because, like, before, maybe 3 years ago, I would have never been like, I would only pray when I needed it. You know what I mean?
Right, right.
And
Yep.
so being able to lean into Him, knowing that everything is going to work out, it doesn't need to be perfect. Like, that really has changed both Brandon and I's life. Like, it is so important to us. And I thought that was really cool at Rise and Record. There was a lot of people in alignment with that. And to be
Hmm.
brave enough to open up to that, in front of people who might not have that same alignment, I think that's just so powerful.
Yeah, well, I mean, it's a testament to the Lord as well, to be like, God, I love you and I have faith in you. And it's okay if there's a person that's, in the crowd that doesn't have that relationship with you, or have the faith in you that I have. But my story includes you, and I'm telling my story, and you are
Mm-hmm.
a part of my story. And like that, I think that is, another one of the best ways to give praise to God. I mean,
Yeah.
to say it to anybody who's around, and without that fear of being like, well, what if they're not into Jesus? What if they're not into
Mm-hmm.
God? Like, that's okay. Like, if
Yeah.
that's not your cup of tea, that's fine. But this is a part of my story. And it's so
Yes.
powerful to be able to share that. And I love that you
Yes.
did, because that really did, I mean, there's how many times do you hear people's testimony of, and it's not even really them and their personal life that God changes something. It's you witnessing something else, whether it's, something tragic that you guys experienced, or you see the opposite of that, and you see somebody get born again in Christ, and you witness like the light in their life change. It's not that God did something to you to make you kind of turn things around. He showed you his power through
Yes.
somebody else. And I just think that that's like, I get chills when I think about that, because like,
Yes.
it's
Me
crazy how
too.
God, yeah, it's
It is.
crazy how God can do that.
Yeah. It's not like it's just, yeah, it's so eye-opening too. And I think once you say yes and you lean on him, like such miraculous things happen. Like I'm telling you, for Rise and Record, the fact of me being on stage, like I was on stage because I was leaning into God. Like I would not be on stage. Like last year, I was like in the back working with the AV, so like I was just like, he's calling me to share my story. He's telling me that my brokenness is going to help other people. And I thought, that's so powerful. Like, and it doesn't even have to be someone who's, had an addiction or is, like you said, like there's just so many different areas where you can inspire someone, like especially in the financial field. Oh, like how many of us as entrepreneurs have been at rock bottom? I mean, we can't say we won't be again, but like
That resilience to keep going, like no matter what.
yes,
It's like these experiences that we have, like you were saying, how like you're still going through obstacles, and you probably will continue to go through them, just like I will. There'll be ups and downs, and but to know when you get out of one obstacle, it's like, okay, I got through it. So now when something else comes, like either I have more faith now, or I have more resilience now, or I have more experience and more knowledge. So then the next
yeah,
time I go through something like this, I took notes the last time, and this next time I'll there might be a different thing that messes up, but at least the thing that I already messed up won't be messed up again.
yes, that's so good, so good.
um, so I wanted to talk a little bit about the best advice that you have ever gotten in your journey throughout anything. Like, I mean, you can think of, maybe if you can't think of just one piece of advice, you can think of two.
Yeah.
But what was something that what you heard or read really helped you just push through everything that you were going through?
Yeah, I think like Bela, who was our director for Success in Your City, and he does a lot. He did Red Flags. I don't know if you've seen that, but he really emphasized on, your pain always has a purpose, and your brokenness often dictates your calling. And I think so many times we go through life and we're like, my brokenness is holding me back. Like, no one's going to want to learn from me. No one's going to understand or give me like any kind of time, because I was a drug addict. Like I did really bad things. I stole, I sold drugs. I did all these things. And for you to step back and realize that like what you've been through is going to help so many people who are going through the same thing. It's such a mindset shift. It takes a while. Like it took me a long time to feel comfortable in a room of people, entrepreneurs, business people, because I'm like, they are defining me for my past. And so when I was able to step in to my purpose as in helping women. Like I can totally like spot out someone who's on drugs, and it breaks my heart because at a time, at a certain time when I do see that, like they are so out of their mind that they couldn't even change if they wanted to at that point. And it breaks my heart. Like, and then, even relationships, like I have so many friends who are just settle for like super red flag, abusive relationships. And it's like, I can, I can understand that. Like I've been through that. So how can I help them through my pain and really like change their lives and their mindset? So I think that piece of advice is probably my favorite. Like your pain always has a purpose.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. So to the person who feels like they're, in the pit of hell and they want to give up, using that mindset of, your pain having a purpose, what do you say to them when whether they come to you or maybe God tells you like, hey, you maybe go talk to that person because he does that a lot.
Yes, he does.
Yeah.
It's so
What
true.
is, yes. When you're seeing these people, regardless of the level that they're in, how do you use your pain as a purpose to help them?
Yeah. So I feel like I always like talk to Brandon about this because it's such like a double thing. Because if say someone comes to me and they're like, I'm trying to get out of this abusive relationship, and I can say, guess what? Like there's always good in goodbye. There's always something, an experience, a lesson that you're going to take away from one of the hardest times of your life. It's going to hurt like hell. Like it's not going to be easy, but use me as an example. You can get through this, and it's a support system that really does help that. But at the same time, it took me years to get out of a relationship. 8 years I suffered and I lost all the strength inside of me. So it's, I look back, I'm like, I can tell someone, look, there's, beautiful things on the other side of this goodbye. But at the same time, it has to be some of their idea too. So just, giving them encouragement and telling them that you're going to be there and find that support system. It's really hard to have support when you're in an abusive relationship because that's all you know is you're trying to make this guy love you.
Right.
So that's really like, it's such a complicated thing, but I think just using my experience, like I just got over so much. Like
Mhm.
surround yourself with people who lift you up and who love you and who support you. And I know it's easier said than done. Like it truly is,
Sure.
but it's out there, and there's just giving them that like encouragement.
Yeah, absolutely. What would you say for the person who recognizes that, let's use the relationship for an example.
Yeah.
They recognize that they're in this abusive relationship and they want to leave and
Yeah.
they're ready to, and they're trying to muster up the strength. What do you say to them? What advice do you give to them to really help catapult that move?
Yeah. I mean, I think my greatest advice would, to like, I moved away. I moved 2,000 miles away. That was
Mhm.
the only way that I knew I was going to be able to do that. Not everyone can do that. So like, I would say like, find something that you can focus on. Like for me, it was fitness. Like I realized that I got the same feeling of trying to make this guy love me as I did when I was working out, in a weird way.
Yeah.
So just finding something to focus on, and again, just finding someone to talk to. Like if you don't have that for family support, like there's groups out there. But it's another terrifying thing. But like if they can just find something to focus on and surround themselves with people who encourage them, like I said before, like it really is transformational. It's just finding that strength to like open up to someone. Because like I opened up to my family and they helped me. Like I was brave enough to open up about exactly what was going on. And I think that's always challenging for people who are in, relationships like that because they're scared and fearful. So
Yeah. Fearful of judgment, fearful of leaving that person and then that person doing something crazy to, come after
yes.
them or anything like that. But you're so right when you say that it's important to keep a good stronghold foundation community around you.
Mm-hmm.
People who are not going to be afraid to tell you, hey, I don't like what's happening here, or hey, I think that you're going a little crazy with your finances for this job or for this thing that you're trying to pursue, and not to deter you from it, but to be like, let's reel it in a little bit. Like, let's talk about what you're trying to do here. Or, like, hey, like, I love you and I don't like what's happening in this relationship. So, like, we need to talk about it or whatever. But having that person, whether it's one person or your whole family or a group of friends, that love you enough to say something to you. And, I've also been in a manipulative, mentally abusive relationship. Thank God it wasn't physical or anything like that, but I was trapped. It was like, you feel like you're trapped and you want to leave, but you can't. But you can, but it's like, you're just kind of in this weird thing. And then the back and forth happens, and then the toxic. And then when you finally are out of it, it almost feels weird. Like, it almost feels like you feel more vulnerable when you're out of something that's abusive or toxic than you did when you were in it. And I feel like that's why people maybe go back to those things, because they feel this vulnerability when they're out of it. And then just, that's why I went back and forth so much, because I was like, it feels weird to be not with you. It feels weird to it feels weird to not have toxic air around my life, and then finally you're just like, you know what? It's like that hardest thing that you do in your life in that moment, but it takes a couple of weeks, maybe months, maybe a year, whatever. But the fact that you just keep focusing on, like, this is weird now, but it won't be if I just stay in this space, if I keep moving forward, if I keep doing the things that make me happy and fill my soul and fill this void that I feel like I have, and a lot of the times, like, for me, and I'm sure for you as well, like, that void that needed to be filled was with God. Like, I needed to have that filled with the Lord in order for me to find the strength to do everything that I needed to do and stay on track.
So true.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, Samantha, thank you so much for taking the time to share your pain and the purpose behind it, and the way that you help people now. Before we close out, I just wanted to see if there was anything that you would like to add to this conversation, anything that you would like any of the Beyond Broken Hungry listeners to leave with and take away from this conversation.
I just feel like if you're going through something right now and you just feel so defeated, just know that, you are going to get through it. And even if it's reaching out to me, you can find me on Instagram, or reaching out to someone who you can trust. That's bravery and that's courage. And I think that if we all were able to do that at some point in our life, we could change so many more lives. So, just keep going, and you're strong, and you're going to get through it, and you're going to find the experience and the lesson in that. And that's just so powerful.
Yeah, absolutely. So if people do want to find you, where can they find you on the Instagram or in the interweb world?
I know. So I have Instagram. I don't have a website, but Samantha at Samantha J Rossin. And then if you want to learn a little bit more about kind of what I do with the event space and stuff, that's riseandrecord.com.
Awesome. Great. Well, Samantha, thank you so much for being a part of the podcast today. I really appreciate it.
Thank you.
Thanks for tuning in to this week's episode of Beyond Broken Hungry. If you aren't already, be sure to subscribe to Beyond Broken Hungry wherever you get your podcast so you can get notified every time a new episode drops. It would also mean the world to me if you rate, review, and share the podcast too, so more people can join the BBH tribe. Follow this podcast on social media at Beyond Broken Hungry to interact and see how I'm stumbling toward wellness one day at a time. And most importantly, tune back in next week for another episode. See you then.